Yeah.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you for coming here at 8:30 in the morning. You know the great thing about you coming here at 8:30 in the morning? It means you're actually interested in the session, because if you weren't interested in the session, I can guarantee that you wouldn't be here. But that's great. Now, my name is Oren Thomas, and as you can hear from the accent, I'm Australian. But we've got a bit of an international smorgasbord because my mate here is Mike Ressler, and Mike's from Belgium. So I don't think you're going to find a session at this conference where the speakers have travelled as far to be here from opposite sides of the planet. Anyway, Mike?
All right, and with that, well, yesterday I was talking to Oren and I was saying like, yeah, 8:30 in the morning. Again, way too early. Thank you for being here. I hear the party was great last night. We tried to go to bed in time. Kind of failed, but we tried. And we're thinking, let's start with 20 minutes of slides. It's not a good idea the Friday morning. So instead of bore you with 20 minutes of slide, I suggest, Oren, that you go to the stage and that we just start with the demo. And what Oren is going to show you today is what we're actually going to build throughout the rest of the session. So we first show the result, and then we're going to build it from 0 to up what we want to show you today and what we hopefully think would be something you can use in your environments. All right, Oren?
Okay, so what this session is all about is building a self-service portal to automate the process of data protection and recovery. And as you can certainly appreciate on Friday morning after a big party, the more you can automate a process, especially one as critical as data protection, the easier things are. Because if you've just got a web form that you've got to fill out, it's just, oh mate, what do I need to do? Oh yeah, I just remember the server name, database name, protection level, awesome. It's a lot better than filling out a lot more wizards.
I think it's very important. You probably saw this entire week, you saw private cloud stuff, right? And you saw all these end users that could order their own service. Yay, the business loves that. Well, we're the backup guys. If we don't know that those things are ordered, well, we're not going to protect them. Which means that they're running out there without any data protection, and that's not what we want.
Yep.
So let's see if we can automate this.
Okay, so as I said, what we're going to show you is what we're going to build. So we're going to show you open the kimono first, and then we're going to show you how we open the kimono. As I don't know if you guys use that term, but if I don't make sense, just blame it on the fact that I'm Australian. I could say, crikey, look at that. Okay, so here we've got the portal. I click recover. Whoops, that's not the one I want. I don't want recover. What I want to do is I want to put an SQL database into DPM protection. So what we go here is we go to our request form. Okay, and this is the form we're going to set up. What we've got here is our server name. So our server name of our SQL server is, funnily enough, SQL. Now, we built two databases for this presentation. We built an Australia database and a Belgium database. So, Mike, what do we want to back up?
Let's go for Belgium.
Okay, so all I have to do is remember how to spell Belgium.
It's not that difficult, Oren.
Okay, and the next thing we do is we choose a protection type, because what we're doing in building this solution is we're going to offer multiple tiers of protection, because as an IT department, as a service department, what we're going to do is going to offer our customers within the organisation the ability to choose multiple levels of service. The better the service, the more we're going to charge them. So here what we're going to say is we want to have SQL gold protection, the best level of protection. So I go next, and what I do then is I submit the request. This goes on to be submitted, and if I can jump just across here to the Service Manager console, click on Work Items, and then here look at service requests. What we can see is that's automatically been submitted to Service Manager. So that's what we're going to build today. We're going to build the whole process with DPM, with Orchestrator, and with Service Manager so that you can provide that very simple web interface for people to self-service backup and self-service recovery.
All right, so this should have been normally our first slide instead of the demo. So what we're going to do today, well, first now we're going to have some discussions why you still need backup. I love all these talks that were on this week that they say, yeah, who needs backup? We got data resiliency, we're going to go fail over everything. But why do we still need backup in the private cloud? Then we're going to talk very briefly about System Standard 2012 DPM, orchestrator. For those who don't know DPM, we'll go very briefly over it, what it does, what it's capable of, a bit about Service Manager, but in the end, this session is all about how we're going to bring those three together and actually show you how we built that runbook and what you can do it with yourself. Now, important to know is, and it's a key takeaway, is we are showing it here that an end user can choose a server, choose his database name. If you put in another product of System Center, you can actually make sure that it's just clickable instead of typing, end users typing, making mistakes. But that you can also go one step further and go into your private cloud, and the moment somebody deploys a service, that it's automatically protected. That's also an option you have. So with what we'll give you today, you will be able to automate that through your data center or give your end users the possibility. We also will post all of these demos. We tested them out this week. We recorded them with some software, and we'll post them later on YouTube for you guys to see them again.
So all you have to do is follow on Twitter if you follow @OrenThomas or @MikeRessler. What we'll do later in the week, I recorded everything in Camtasia. So everything that you're going to see in this session, you'll be able to see. We'll post it up on YouTube, and you can watch it later. So you're sitting there going, oh my gosh, they did all of those steps. What you'll be able to do is actually, if you just follow or watch our Twitter stream, you don't have to follow us, you just have to watch the Twitter stream. Pardon? @OrenThomas. Yep, so if you go back to the first slide, you can see there, @OrenThomas and @MikeRessler. Yep, right. Sorry, it's Australians and vowels. We're not too good with them.
All right, enough advertisement for ourselves, Oren. Let's get this started.
Okay,
Here we go.
So modern data centers. Now, one of the things that you've got to consider with the modern data center, and one of the big problems in discussing the issue of backup with people, is that people have a very 1990s mentality when it comes to backup, because they go, why do I need to do backup? I've got Exchange. Exchange has got database availability groups. I've got SQL 2012. SQL's got always on. All of this is highly resilient. All of this is highly automated. Why do I need backup, Mike? What do I need?
Well, whether we like it or not, it won't protect you against everything. And this is what I really like when I go into customers. And now this is the moment, guys, I'm going to, go on your arm, get better scores. But I come into some meetings and everybody says, yay, we got replication, we got this, we got data center A, B, C, whatever. We don't need no backup anymore. And luckily, there's always at least one guy that says, wait a minute. It's great that we got failover. It's great that it won't protect us against problems with malware, unforced user errors. I've got the clicker, right? Sorry. Applications that are written badly. I'm hoping no developers in this room.
I don't see any ponytails. So.
Sometimes it happens that they write something which is not that good. So user errors, very important. People make mistakes. They delete stuff. And while we have all these systems, sometimes we still need to have backup. And backup will be our last castle, as we call it, our last defense. If all things go wrong, here's backup. Here's DPM to make sure that you can put back the data. And we think that's very important. Updates that go wrong. We know Microsoft tests a lot their update cycles, and then they bring them out. But when they go wrong, and that's mostly with a third-party application, we still need to be able to recover our data.
Now, and to put this in another context, when I'm teaching in Australia, I teach a lot of System Center courses in Australia. One of the first questions I ask is, okay, when was the last time you had to do a complete server recovery? Now, a couple of weeks ago, I had some blokes in from one of the biggest banks in the Asia-Pacific region. And they nervously put up their hand and said, last week. I said, oh, okay, mate, what happened? Oh, Wally reprovisioned the LUN and took out half of our virtual machines. So if you've got a Wally in your data center, I mean, it's lovely to think that we're all hyper-competent, but if any of you can tell me that you work with perfectly competent people who are competent all the time and never make mistakes, then maybe you don't need data protection. However, if you're working with people that perhaps you wouldn't trust to operate a microwave, then perhaps you need to consider data protection. Okay, so data protection. Data Protection Manager. This is Microsoft Management Summit. We're talking about Microsoft products. And when it comes to best of breed protection for Microsoft products, Microsoft developed Data Protection Manager specifically for those workloads. And the story you've probably heard is that Microsoft looked at what was out there from third parties and they went, okay, we have some issues with some of this because we're not finding that we're getting the level of reliability for backup and restore that we want for our customers. What can we do about it? Well, in the long run, when it comes down to it, if you want to do something right, what do you got to do? You've got to do it yourself. And Data Protection Manager is Microsoft's way of dealing with that. So as we know, it backs up Microsoft workloads. It's designed to back up Microsoft workloads. They go in, they talk to the product team, they say, hey guys, we want to make sure Exchange is protected. What's the deal? So how can Exchange be protected in a way that's fully supported by Microsoft? So that if someone comes to us and says, okay, we've had a problem with recovery, as other presenters have said, there's one throat to choke. There's one bloke to go and punch at the pub. It's not that, you go to the pub and there's this bloke over here who's from one vendor and there's another bloke over there from another vendor and they're pointing at them and going, no, mate, it's him. No, it's, there's one throat to choke, and that's Microsoft when it comes to Data Protection Manager. So Data Protection Manager writes to disk, Data Protection Manager can write out to tape, Data Protection Manager can write your backups out to cloud. But the other key component is that Data Protection Manager is part of System Center. And System Center, as I'm sure you've had it shoved down your throat this week, is part of a holistic whole. It's all designed to work together. And what we're really showing you in this presentation is how you get these components interacting, spinning together so that you're getting a good experience, not just one product, but this product talking to this product, talking to this product.
Okay, just one quick question in the room. Who of you knows Data Protection Manager? Quite a lot. Who is actually using it?
Excellent.
So why is everybody telling me DPM is not used? I've got a room full of it. That's great. Who is using DPM 2010? Who already is using DPM 2012?
Good on you.
Nice. Cool. All right, let's talk about scalability. If you're going to look at it, DPM per DPM box can actually protect up to around 100 protection servers. Is that a fixed number? No. It all depends on what you're protecting. I have customers who can only protect 4 production servers, but that's because their Exchange environment, and it's a total of 40 terabytes. But we also have the capability 3,000 Windows clients. I'm not sure if anybody of you is actually using protection with DPM for Windows clients. It's actually a great solution. You should investigate this. It's very good. We can protect with one box over around 2,000 SQL Server databases, which is a huge amount of SQL Server databases. If somebody has that and wants to protect it, please let me know. I will be happy to work with that one. That's a huge number. 25 terabytes of SharePoint farm with over 1 million items in it. I've got one customer that got until 18 terabytes. Anybody got better than that? No? I really wish it would. And then for one DPM box, we can talk about protecting 40 terabytes of Exchange. And if you look at it, those numbers doesn't seem that high. But even if you're going to look at Microsoft, for example, which is kind of a large environment they have, with a decent number of servers, they have about 100, 120 DPM servers to protect throughout the world all of their data. And with the 2012 version, and with the integration into Operations Manager, which you probably saw in the session somewhere, I think it was on Wednesday or something.
Yeah.
You will see that now centralized management is perfectly possible.
So you can do all of those 100 DPM servers from one pane of glass. So if Microsoft can do it from one pane of glass, unless you're running an organization that's bigger than Microsoft, you can probably do it from one pane of glass as well.
All right. One of the key things you need to know when you're going to automate data protection is how, in heaven's name, am I going to get my agents on those boxes? Again, private cloud scenario. We deploy some 3-tier applications, all great, all fun. But how do we get that agent on the box? Now, there are different possibilities. There's a way we can just place it into the image. That's one. We can use GPOs. We can use GPOs. A new server comes into an OU, and it automatically gets installed. We can use other non-Microsoft products to actually deploy it. We could do scripting. We could do it manually. one of the great ways to deploy it is by using Configuration Manager. I'm going to let you explain that stream.
Okay, so again, this comes down to this idea of there being a whole ecosystem behind System Center. And when it comes to the deployment of Data Protection Manager agents just aren't a matter of throwing an agent out on the box. Of course, your key issue with Data Protection Manager is ensuring that you actually have the client linked to a particular DPM server. Because let's say you've got 20,000 servers out there, you know, as we were saying, you can protect X per DPM box. Obviously, if they all try and go to the same DPM box, you're going to have a problem. So the nice thing is that Microsoft's built Data Protection Manager so that through Operations Manager and Configuration Manager, not only can you automate the deployment of agents, but you can automate the connection of those agents to different DPM servers in a load-balanced way. So literally what happens is you get a new agent going out on a new box, and what happens is that the agent talks to Operations Manager and says, right, which DPM server is at least capacity? Which one has the most capacity? Which one should I go and throw this connection to? So again, it's a matter of this holistic approach, and this is what we're talking about. This is an ecosystem. Everything fits together. Okay, so the requesting protection process.
Yeah, so what you saw in the beginning of the presentation, for those who were a bit late, you missed that. We started off with our demo and what actually was happening. We're going to just repeat it one more time, and then we're going to start building it. So then it's demo time. So we got Emily. Emily is our application owner. She just deployed something. She's going to go to Internet Explorer, because I'm not allowed to say any other browser. She's going to go to the self-service portal of Service Manager. She does a request, and then Orchestrator kicks in, talks to DPM, and finally, her database will be protected. Again, this is just an example of how to automate it. How you're really going to do it will depend on your environment. Let's see. Oh.
Okay, so Orchestrator is the glue. And what Mike's about to show you, the demonstration of building the glue. So what we're doing, the first thing is we're putting the plumbing in with Orchestrator, essentially writing a runbook that's actually going to do this. Once we've written the runbook, what we're going to do is shove on top of it all of the Service Manager stuff and then put the web portal in at the top. So Mike, take it away.
Yeah, but before I do that, I have to talk about integration pack. Now, this is probably going to be, well, who knows what an integration pack is? Almost everybody?
Awesome.
Okay, then I don't have to explain it a lot. It's just a lot of activities together, and the one for DPM, of course, it's System Center, so it has an integration pack. It has also some activities. Now, the first time that you're going to work with that integration pack, you will see it's a bit confusing. You will see that I'll use a certain activity multiple times, but each time I'm going to request different information. So that's what I hope you take away with it when I do the runbook automation, that you can do with one activity, you can get lots of different information. The integration pack is out there. The URL is on the slides, which you can download later. You can start playing with it in your own environment. All right, here we go.
Okay, so Mike's now going to write the Orchestrator runbook that's going to sit there as the plumbing to protect a SQL database. Now, what Mike's demo, you're going to see a version of it, something that does the same thing, not exactly what Mike does, but pretty much what Mike does. Of course, we'll post to YouTube so that you can actually watch all of this later.
All right. I'll start with creating a new folder. MMS 20, no, that's 2 years ago, 2012. I'm going to start creating a new runbook. I'm going to check it out. Change the name. We call this MMS 2012 Protect SQL DB or something like that. Here we go. I'm going to start by dragging a few of those activities, and the first one I'm dragging here is the initialize data, and with that activity I'm going to just create the parameters that we will use to input the variables into our runbook from Service Manager. And now we will see, I'm going to drag get data source. I'm going to do that again, and I'm actually going to do that a third time onto our runbook window. And then I'm going to drag protect data source. And finally, I'm going to say create recovery point. Right. This is my run book. So in 2, 4, 6 small steps, we're actually going to automate this entirely. Now, I know this is a demo. We only have 1 hour and 50 minutes. But normally, we would build in some error handling to see if everything goes right. We can't do that in that time frame. Otherwise, you will be here at the afternoon. And I'm pretty sure you will be bored by us by then. But here goes. So I connect everything to make sure that all the information goes onto the data bus. Everybody knows what the data bus is in Orchestrator? Wow. 8:30, 8:49 now, and everybody's awake. Cool.
Everybody wants to ride the data bus.
So I'm going to add myself some parameters. 3. Here we go. First one, what we saw on the portal that Orange showed is we're going to give the server name. Second one will be the database name. Here we go. And third one is actually going to be the type. And with the type, we mean bronze, gold, silver. And just to show you for a second here what we mean by that, I'm going to go to DPM. We kind of have 3 protection groups, which is SQL Bronze, SQL Gold, and SQL Silver. Oh yeah, and by the way, here we go. We protected Belgium a couple of minutes ago, and it's working. We couldn't show you in the beginning because it takes some time, but as you can see, it's protected. And we created those protection group, and they got specific retention range. They got, the gold. You will have 4 recovery points a day, plus every 15 minutes a synchronization. Silver is a little bit less, and bronze is like the cheap version. You get 1 protection point a day, something like that. What?
Bronze is bad. Wait a sec, mate. That's what Australia always wins at the Olympics. How can that be bad?
No comment on that one.
That was for Adam Hall, if he's in the room.
I think Adam Hall is still sleeping, but... All right, so we got these 3 parameters. Now, again, you will see a bit, just to make the demo quickly, you will see we named those protection groups SQL Gold, SQL Silver, SQL Bronze, and you will see that we're exactly going to use the same thing. In Orchestrator, you can build in some intelligence that people can select Gold, and that you translate it to the right name of the protection group, that you don't need to use that. But, all right, first thing what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk to my DPM server, and I'm going to request the information of the protection group. Get protection group. Wow. Let me just quickly change that one. I'm going to open this activity. I'm going to connect to my DPM connection so that it knows to which DPM server it has to go. Here I'm going to change to protection group, and what I'm now going to do is just subscribe to the data that we gave him with Service Manager, and that would be the type. That's it. That's the first one. Well, the second one, what we're going to do is we're going to request the information of the server, the production server that the Emily gave in onto the portal. Get server ID. Again, we open it up. Now we choose production server. We're going to subscribe our published data, and we're going to go back to initialize data and say server name. And that will give us all the information back from that specific server. Why do we need that information? Well, in the back, everything works with GUIDs and IDs, and we don't know those out of our heads. So we need to get that information. Okay? And in the third one, we're actually going to find the data source ID. Now, here's the thing. We're going to protect one database. If I would have taken this step away, the third one, and just then go protect data sources, what it will do, it will enumerate every data source possible on that server. And every data source means, well, if it's a SQL server, it's got SQL databases, but that means also all the volumes, bare metal recovery, system state. And we'll take that all into that protection group. So you can actually say, no, just protect the server, and then take everything with you. But we're not going to do that because we're searching for that one database. So what we're going to do now is, again, I'm going to go to DPM. And now we're going to subscribe to some information that we just found. And that's going to be the, where's the P, production server name. And we're going to put a filter on it. And we're going to say where name equals the database name. From our first activity. Okay? And with these filters, you can really go far. Now I'm really looking for that specific database, but one of the filters you could use, for example, would be type equals SQL. And at that time, you're just going to take every SQL database from that server. No matter how many instances it's got, it will just protect every database out of the box on its own and make sure it's protected. So you can go very far with these, well, only one activity I'm using. You just have to repeat it a couple of times. Okay? Excuse me, could you repeat that question? The question was, can I use one activity and do the repeat process all the time? Okay, unfortunately, no. That's not possible.
And that's got a lot to do with the way that it goes out and grabs the data.
Yep, yeah. All right, so now I've got all my information. I know what to protect. I've got all my IDs. Now I have to protect it, of course. So we're going to go to protect data source. Again, we're going to take this configuration. And in this, I've got two methods to start my replica. As you all know with DPM, there's only one time that you actually take over the entire database, and that's the first time, right? So in DPM, through the user interface, you got three methods to do that. You say now, or you say, no, I'll do it manually, or you say, I'll do it on a later hour. But through Orchestrator, you only have two methods. You got the manual methods, or you can select later. And with later, then you will have to give in a date, an hour, things like that. Well, I'm going to choose manual, and the reason for that is when I choose manual, I can just take that last activity and say, well, I've chosen manual, but I'm going to do it now. So it's a workaround, but it works fine. So I need the data source ID, and we're going to subscribe again. Here we go, data source ID. And then the protection group, which we found in the second activity. And this is a strange one. I normally, in the beginning, when we were playing with this, I always filled in here the protection group ID, because that seems like normal. You're always working with this ID. But this is a little bit different. Here you actually have to have the name. So if you're doing that, remember that you need to have the name here. Here we go. We finish this up. Oh yeah, there are some optional properties. For example, when you say, I want to do it later, then you can put here the time when you want to take that replica. Okay, here we go. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to finally just say data source ID. Here it is. And just take a recovery point now. That's all we do. So we put it into the protection group. We said, well, we'll do it manually, and then just initialize, just go for it, take it anyway. All right. So this is the plumbing. This is my runbook, and as I've said, normally I would have taken some error handling in. Which error handling? Well, first, people that make the mistake typing wrongly. And as we already said, if you put Operations Manager also in the place, then you could go into Service Manager and make some boxes where they can just select their server or the database, so it doesn't have to be typed in. You do that through the CI connector with Operations Manager. And one of the other things we've seen that gone wrong if we use this is that people try to protect their database 2 times. They filled in the request. They seem to have forgotten 2 days later that they actually did that, and it's already protected, and they do it again. And then you got this error in Orchestrator saying, hey, this is already protected. So these are some things where you have to build in error handling. But that's it. The only thing I now have to do is, well, normally I should go to the runbook tester and check it out, but now I'm going to check it in. Here we go. And that's it. My plumbing is made. The runbook is there. We can now use it in Service Manager, with Oren will do later, to actually create the portal which you saw in the beginning of the session. All right?
So, Service Manager and Orchestrator. We just saw Mike build the plumbing. And that plumbing process, the process that you saw that he did to build a SQL data source, would work with Exchange. It works with file servers. It works with Hyper-V. It works across the entire stack. We've just chosen SQL as an example because in the time we've given, we can't go and protect everything for you. But you can use that exact same process to protect everything. But Service Manager and Orchestrator. The issue is if you run something through Orchestrator, you can see that it is plumbing. It's all of the guts of what's going on underneath. What we actually want to have is we want to have a very nice, simple interface, because if you don't make it simple, people aren't going to use it, especially if it's self-service. If they've got to sit there and click through more dialog boxes than they're comfortable with, which is about 3 or 4, they're going to go, I know that you've got self-service protection there, but I didn't feel like going through that, and now I've lost all my data, and can you fix it, mate? And no. So that's a bit of an issue. So with Service Manager, what we can do is we can set it up so that it is dead simple, so that even Wally can do it. And that's the important thing. It's got to be simple. Unless it's simple...
Who is this Wally guy?
Wally is an Australianism for...
You're not talking about Wally meat, right?
No. We're just talking about, if someone breaks a window, it's probably Wally. If someone trips over in the middle of the street, it's probably Wally. If you actually have a look at through...
You need to get me over to Australia so that I learn this stuff.
There's a lot of slang, and I'm trying to tone it right down so people actually understand me. But I could just be Steve Irwin and go, crikey, look at that. Anyway, so what I'm going to do here is we're actually going to go and create all of the self-service request infrastructure. And we do that through System Center Service Manager. So the first step in doing this, what we want to do is we want to create ourselves a management pack. For those of you who are au fait with the System Center suite, management pack's just a container that we put stuff in. So what we do here is we go across to management packs, we go create management packs, we give it a funky name like MMS 2012. I'm sure that you absolutely admire my creativity in coming up with that name. Now that once we've got that management pack built, the next thing we have to do is we need to go and sync the connector. The idea behind syncing the connector is that what it's going to do is Service Manager is going to go over and it's going to hop over to Orchestrator and it's going to say, okay, Orchestrator, what runbooks exist on this Orchestrator server? Because I want to use those runbooks. So in syncing the connector, I go Orchestrator connector, I click Synchronize Now, it puts in a synchronization request, it goes out to the Orchestrator server, says, mate, what do you got? And the Orchestrator server comes back and says, mate, this is what I've got. So we've done that. Okay, now I'll apologise in advance. This is Service Manager and it's got more wizards than Hogwarts. So you're going to see me dealing with a lot of wizards, no witches, but a lot of wizards, so please be patient, but this is how we build it. And one of the other things that you need to deal with, one of the other things you need to remember, to build it to be simple, yes, there's a lot of complex steps involved in getting there, but the advantage is once you've done all the hard work, it's gravy from then on, and then you can get on to doing those important things that you do as a systems administrator.
Well, I think that is a very important point. I mean, I'm assuming that most of you are the backup guys, like the way I am. Yeah? You're backup guys?
Or girls.
At least a few. You don't want to play around protecting new stuff. You don't want to recover those things that the end users, and I didn't use the L in that word. Well, I also don't want to say up. You want to be with your backup. You want to make sure that you have your storage okay, your tapes and stuff like that. That's your real work. You want to make sure that when things go really bad, you can recover. So with getting this into your environment, letting them do their own work, you will have much more time for your real work, and that's when it's really going bad, you'll be the guy that saves the day, right? Sorry to interrupt, Oren.
That's okay, mate. Or the girl that saves the day, because we are completely equal opportunity.
Really?
Absolutely, mate. Wow. Okay, so what we're doing here is we're creating a template. A template is something that something else works off. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is we need to create what's called a runbook automation template. So we come down here, we select our class, runbook automation activity. Click OK, make sure the management pack is the management pack we just created. We click OK. So what that's going to do is it's going to give us a basic form. One of the most critical steps you've got to do when you're creating this particular activity, and you'll see this on the video, I've even got it highlighted with a big flashing light going, mate, look here, is ensure that you've got this configured ready for automation, because you want this to spin up as soon as it's ready. You don't want to have to sit there and wait for someone to trigger it. So our runbook activity, so again, we'll give it a name. add SQL DB into protection. Okay, so we provide some metadata. We say, okay, mate, this is infrastructure. We go across here to our runbook. Now, what we're doing here is we're selecting the runbook that we're going to run. And what we want to do is we want to put our request SQL database into protection, runbook. Okay, we've got all of this business here. You can see we've got this, but we're going to muck around with that a bit later. We're not worried about that too much now. So I click OK. So once we've got that particular template, the next template I need to build is creating a service request template. So I come back here, I go create template, I go service request. So again, I give it a name, so MMS 2012.
While he is typing, the more information you give in those templates, because these are the things you're reusing, the more happier your service desk or the help desk or whatever you call it in your environment is going to be, because the more you put in the standard templates, the less they will need to do with those tickets.
Okay, so it's just a matter of filling in those forms with all the data that they need. Okay, so in this case, what I do is I go browse. What class do I want? I want it to be a service request. Now, the tricky thing that this gets to be a bit of a tricky bugger here, because what it does is when you do that, it actually flicks over the management pack to something that's other than the default when you opened it. So I've got to say, okay, mate, come back here. You're going to be sitting over here in the MMS 2012 management pack. So once I do that, again, we get our service request template. So we give it a title. So in this case, we call it MMS 2012 service request spelling, mate, template, add DB into protection. Okay, so we could provide a description if we wanted. We can provide urgency, priority. We can provide an area. So again, we say it's infrastructure. We come across here to activities. And what we want to do is we want to add that MMS 2012 template that we just created.
Just as an additional information, what he's going to add now is an automation activity, which means from the moment that request gets created, the runbook kicks in and it's get protected. Now, you probably don't want to do that in your production environment without somebody authorizing it. So you can easily build within Service Manager some manual activities, some authorization activities where the boss, the line manager, or whoever needs to approve this request first. Because we said bronze, silver, gold. Well, somebody is going to pay for it, so somebody will need to approve it as well. And if you then use third-party vendors, like Durdak, for example, who was in the expo, I think you were, you can actually automate this stuff, and then you can have things on their apps, on their iPhones, did I say iPhone? On their Windows Phone 7s, so they can approve it from there. Things like that.
Okay, so the next step is once we've got those bits and pieces, those templates in place, what we do is we create what's called a service offering, and after we've got a service offering, we actually create what's called a request offering. So the service offering is what you see when you come into the portal. The request offering is actually the thing you want to do. So the first thing is we go here, we go create service offering. So in this service offering here, we get, another wizard, hi there, Dumbledore. MMS 2012 service offering. We can even give it a funky image. You can choose Nyancat if you want, but we're going to go with MMS reasonably small. We can give metadata here. We can go overview, description, whatever. That just turns up on the web portal, so you make it as informative as you want. Service level agreement information, specify what you're actually going to give them for this service request template. So that when they're doing these self-service activities, they actually know what they're going to get when they're clicking gold, silver, and bronze. It's very clear to them, so that if they come back and they go, oh, I thought you were going to give me hourly protection. And you're like, mate, you chose bronze. It's once a day. But I saw hourly protection. Yeah. Gold. You chose bronze. Bronze is what you got. We can't read your mind. And as wonderful as it would be to read the minds of end users, that way leads to the asylum. So here we're going to choose services related to the offering. We can import stuff like Operations Manager and so on and so forth. Knowledge articles, so if you're really enthusiastic, and I know how wonderfully excited systems administrators are about generating documentation, you can go and choose some knowledge articles. Actually, my recommendation with this, there are screen recording software out there. Camtasia's one, there's other stuff. Systems administrators generally hate writing documentation, which is why I've got a great job as an author of textbooks, because most of my colleagues hate doing this. However, when it comes to users, users hate reading documentation, and users certainly hate reading documentation written by systems administrators who are disinterested in the process of writing documentation. My suggestion is that you go out and you do screen recordings when you want to show someone how to do something. Then you narrate it. You're like, okay, mate, you want to do this, you go and click here, you go and click here, you go and click there. I mean, you make it idiot-friendly so that the end users actually understand how it works. Instead of doing your wiki articles, go and do a bunch of screen recordings so they can sit there and watch it and go, oh, mate, I understand what's going on. Because it's not like, well, mate, if you'd read the third paragraph, you would have seen that. It was on the video. I mean, how stupid do you have to be not to understand a video?
I so disagree. I write great documentation.
I'm sure you write great documentation, but what about your audience, mate?
They love my documentation.
I'm sure they do. But if you did a video, put a bit of dubstep in it, got in the middle there, drop the bass.
We're not going to go there this morning. No dubstep.
Mate. Okay, so here we've got our offering status. What we want to do is we want to set that across to publish. We want to give it an operating owner. In this case, I'm just going to say Oren, because that's me. Internal notes, whatever, mate. Click next. Now we click next, wait, and then we click create. So what we've done there is created the service offering. The last thing I need to do is create myself a request offering. So again, I do that from here. I go click create request offering. So this is probably the most fiddly bit when it comes down to it. So I go MMS 2012, give it a nice title, request offering. Spelling would be good. Next version, I hope. Add SQL DB into protection. So this is what's going to turn up on the website as what the actual service is itself. Give it a video, not a video, an icon. Now here we're going to select the template. We've created that template. So there's our MMS 2012 service request template. Make sure that's gone in there. So now we've got our form instructions. So fill out this if you want your database protected, mate. Next thing, okay, server name. That's just
one question. Do you really write that kind of documentation in Australia?
Would you be disappointed if you went to Australia and we all spoke, well, sir, would one like a cup of tea? Or would you rather go to Australia and like, mate, how you going? Do you want some beer? You've got to give the tourist what they want, okay? Right, if you're an Australian overseas, there's certain expectations about your behaviour. And your behaviour is that you're not James Bond, you're Steve Irwin.
All right.
It's like you're Belgian, okay? It means that there's certain expectations about your behaviour, okay? You're the straight guy, I'm the slightly not straight guy.
Okay.
And I don't mean that in the everybody dance now. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Okay, database name. Okay, and the third one here is our protection level. Now, protection level, what we're going to do is we're going to give them the option of actually choosing a protection level from a simple list. Go to the next page, and this is where it gets a little more complicated. It's a wonderful thing about demos. You press next and you're sitting there going, dude, have you understood what I've told you or not? Next. Oh. That would be no. There we are. Okay, so here I click configure, and what I do is I enter what my protection levels are. So in this case, SQL Gold, SQL Silver, and SQL Bronze. Now, what we're going to do is because, Australia thinks that winning a bronze medal is as good as anything you can get, we're actually going to set that as the default. But in reality, you set the lowest level of protection as the default. So if someone doesn't choose anything, at least they're protected. In protection's insurance, I mean, at least they've got the lowest level of insurance. If a user's actually smart enough to go to the self-service portal and then stuffs it up, at least they're kind of protected. So we go next, and what we're going to do here is we're going to tie those values that we've just configured across. So here we've got database name, so we know that that obviously is going to map to database name. Here we've got server name, that's obviously going to map to server name. So that leaves us, because this has not given us a lot of information, that's our protection level.
Just to make this point clear, what we actually do here is it knows the parameters I created in my runbook, and it now links them to the fields that people are going to fill in. That's what we are doing right here.
Okay, so again, what we do is we say we want to make that publish. We want to give it an operating offering owner. So we say, yeah, it's Oren again. Next, and then we create that. So once we have done all of that, the only thing we need to do is we need to link that request offering to the published request offering. And when we do that, which we'll do in a second, what we'll do is we then can go and have a look at the console. So we go request offering, publish request offerings, and we see here we've got this. So we've got that request offering. We go add that to a service offering. So we've got our MMS 2012 service offering. We click add. We click OK. Bob's your uncle. And then we go back here to the home page of our web portal. And we see, oh, look, in the general category, we've got our MMS 12 service offering. So I click on that. We've got our request offering, add database into protection. And if we follow that through, we go to the request form. And there you go. We've just created that self-service portal.
OK. I promised you we're going to do a lot of demos. So now we created this base framework. Now the good thing is if we create more runbooks, we don't need to repeat through all these steps. We will do less steps. But we protected our database. How about we're going to give people the possibility to actually recover their own database? That means, again, less work for the database administrators. Sorry, the backup administrators, more work for database. Never mind.
But that's the advantage, especially if you're dealing with developers who are in development environments. One of the big issues for organisations is ensuring that development environments are properly backed up. If you give DBAs the ability to back up and restore their own databases when they've got a lot of databases, that means that they can be a lot freer with their development. If they do go and drop some unfortunate tables or things like that, they don't have to worry so much about what they're doing, because you've got to give developers the freedom to fail, because good developers fail a lot. Their ability to roll back, and if they can make that self-service, they're not bugging you and their process is much more efficient.
All right, so I'm creating a new runbook. MMS 2012 Recover SQL database. And we're going to start again with dragging the activities onto our work form. Initialize data. You already know now for what it stands. We're going to get some parameters in. The next one will be from the Data Protection Manager IP. And again, we're going to drag ourselves some get data source on it. Whoa. Sorry. Wow. Hey, I found a bug. Here we go. Get data source. I'm going to do this second time. Then I'm going to search for my recovery points. Here we go. And finally, I'll use the built-in recover SQL to actually do the work I need to do. So first, I need to connect everything. And let's start with all the different activities and fill this in. Again, initialize data. I'm going to add 2 parameters this time. One will be the database name. Database name. And the second one will be the server name. Now, is it possible to let users only fill in the server name? Yeah, that's possible, and then you can find the database you want to. The problem is when they need to recover master databases, they're kind of everywhere on every SQL server. And even so, we see in a lot of environments where you have multiple servers with the same database name. So you kind of need to have both of them. Okay. Then get data source, we're going to rename to get server ID. What we're going to do here is, I'm going to go to DPM again. I'm going to go production server, subscribe, and our server name. Pretty easy here. Finish. And this one will be get data source ID. Get data source ID. Now you see we only have 2 times get information because we don't need to get the type of the protection group now. It will come automatically. DPM. We're going to find ourselves the protection group. And what I need is the protection group name. Where are you? Here. From the previous query we did. All right? Now, and then I need to do a filter. And here you will see again how strong this is. Data source. Where are you? Where are you? Sorry about this. Oh, here it is. Data source name equals the database that people gave into the portal. So you see, you have to play a bit with those filters to find out how you need to get your information. Here we go. All right. That one done. And then finally, we're going to get the recovery point. Now, for this demonstration and what we'll show you, we'll just say the latest, but you can actually change this one, get all the recovery points, and then finally make a selection. Don't forget to make that selection. In the beginning, I was playing with it. I said, hey, I want all recovery points. And then I started the activity recover SQL. So it went through all my recovery points and recovered one by one, which took a long time and overwrote kind of everything. So now we're just going to go for latest. We need to get the data source ID. And we're going to get that from the last one we did. So now we actually will search for the latest recovery point from the specific data source ID. And then we're just going to recover. And the recover SQL activity will give you quite some options. You can recover to original instance, or you can even recover to a network folder. This is what I'm going to do here. We need the data source ID, again, from here, data source ID. And we need the recovery source ID. And that one comes from the get recovery points. Here we go. And now you can add a lot of options. And those who know a bit more about SQL than me, which is probably all of you, since I have no idea what SQL does, except making sure that my DPM server runs, you can work with copy log files. You can make sure that the database state is offline, which apparently means that the SQL administrators can do some funky stuff with it. But there are lots of options that you can give these guys to recover. In this case, because I want to recover to a network folder, I also need to fill in the target location and the server name.
And one of the good things about those options is you could use this to automate the process of deploying always-on mirrors. Because if you're using SQL 2012, for example, you know that when you're deploying a mirror to a new database server, you've got to put the database into a particular state. You don't fully recover it. You put it into a state where it's pending, where essentially the recovery is pending. So it's things like that, which people forget even as SQL administrators. They go and they do a full recovery on the database and then they worry why they can't set the mirroring up.
So you see, with a couple of steps, you can really make sure it's easy to recover everything. Again, you need to build in error handling and stuff like that. But what we also see a lot is that you just copy this runbook, create a second one, and then say, no, this one will recover to original one. And then you can actually give people the option, while if they chose recover to original, start this runbook. If they say go to network folder, start this runbook, and so on and so on. All right, this one has been built. We can take this one down. Normally what will happen now is that Oren kicks in again and starts doing all this wizard thingies again. We're not going to bore you to death with that again. But we are going to show you how it works, or at least Oren is going to show you how it works and how we build it. And then we're going to let it run, make sure it recovers. And during that time, we will do a recap and some Q&A. And in the end, hopefully, we'll actually show you that it worked.
Okay, so we go back here. So what we're doing is, instead what we'll do is we'll go back to our home here. Okay, so we'll go to our data center offerings, and what we see is that we've got Recover SQL DB from Data Protection Manager. So this is that our developer has gone, oh, bugger, I've buggered something up completely. I need to recover it. So what I do is I enter the server name that hosts the SQL database.
Yep.
And if you were doing it, say, as an instance, you'd do something like that. Database name, so what we're going to do is recover...
Australia. I think the country needs some recovery.
I think you're right, mate. Okay, recover Australia. I click next. I click submit. that request had been submitted. So again, if I come back to our work items here, and we have all recovery options, what we'll see, automated service request, recover database from data protection manager. So that means that that's going off. Service manager's talking to orchestrator, orchestrator's talking to DPM, DPM's doing the recovery. So all we need to know, and what you would build up if you were building that even more complicated, you should get it to fire off an email to the person who's submitted the request saying, okay mate, your database is located on this particular recovery shared folder. You know, you can go pick it up, you can go and then reattach it to your instance or go and do whatever you want to do with it.
All right. Oh. Right is, here we go. So, well, we're not done yet. Well,
but thank you.
Thank you.
Very appreciated.
Awesome. Few takeaways here. First, complete the session, win some great prizes, give us some good points. You know, you're the best, you're the database guys, please, please. No? Well, we try. Some key takeaways from the session is what we showed you is actually pretty easy. But in the end, whether you want to go for high automation in your environment or give that to the end users, it all comes down to talk to your DPM server, use Orchestrator, make sure everything is integrated. It's playing a bit. Some of these activities aren't that easy, but you can easily then start building your own protection and make sure everything is automated. So, second takeaway, oh, sorry.
Yeah, no. So just to reiterate Mike's point, a lot of what we've shown you here looks complicated and fiddly to set up. And to a certain extent it is at the beginning. But the time saving for you as administrators in developing a self-service infrastructure for this, even if it's only your internal IT group that actually uses it, you are saving yourself. You think of all of the clicks that you have to go through to do this sort of automation, especially if we're going to be doing a similar but not the same session at TechEd. And at TechEd, we're actually then going to be pulling in a lot more stuff, like we'll be pulling in Operations Manager, which is in a whole order of complexity. But then you're pulling it up and you see what's on your network, and then you're basically going, oh right, we want to protect that, we want to recover it. But do the work to automate. Do the work now so that later on things are much more simple for you. Don't always do this, medium hard work all the time. Do the really hard work first, and then it's all easy from there on. Keep going.
All right, and the second key takeaway, but it seems like I'm in a room full of people I don't have to tell to, but think about protection. When you think about your private cloud, which is hammered in your heads for the entire week, from the moment you start the project, think about data protection. When everything is running, you're a bit too late. So start from the beginning, make sure you can work with all these products, that you can tie them together and think about protection. And what do you think? We're going to have a look whether our recovery has succeeded or not?
Okay, so where did we put the recovery? Did we put it on the SQL box?
Well, you just go to the DPM box.
Okay, so let's go to DPM.
And I didn't tell you that, but I recovered to a network folder, so on my DPM box. So let's see. We go to the restore, and if all goes well, what are we, the 20th? Yes, it seems to be working. There you
go, so that's the 20th at today, and what we see, 9:25 in the morning, which was 2 minutes ago, there's Australia, there's volume C, program files, Microsoft SQL, digging all the way down because this is a default.
Anybody thinks that DPN should change this because the file length is...
No, that's actually a SQL issue because this is where the SQL database is actually placed.
Yeah, but Exchange does the same thing. They should fix that. Never mind.
Okay, so anyway, what you're seeing there is the MDF file, and there's the log file as well.
All right, so that means we're up for questions. If you have questions, please come to the mics so we can hear you. I'm a little bit deaf of the music from yesterday, and it's also recorded for other people that will view the session afterwards.
But other than that, yes, questions? Anybody? Viola? Anybody got any questions?
No.
No? Well, thank you very much for your time and attention.
Right.